The increasing accessibility of scientific research by climate change specialists is resulting in ubiquitous and controversial debate around the topic. But despite this availability of information, many people still choose to defy the known truth and indulge in their own misinformation. The reason for this response can be explained using the psychological model of belief polarization, which can be adapted to suit climate change debates accordingly.
What does the president actually believe about climate change? Does he still believe it's a hoax? Could you clarify that, since apparently nobody else in the White House can?
Yeah, I have not had an opportunity to have that discussion.
Belief polarization occurs when two people examine the same evidence but update their beliefs in opposite directions. For example, if two individuals are told there is a strong scientific consensus that global warming has been caused by humans, an individual who accepts this evidence may strengthen their beliefs, whereas an individual already distrustful of climate scientists may believe the evidence confirms a conspiracy among scientists, strengthening their views against climate change. The public consensus of climate change's existence appears to be one of two extremes: believing climate change is real or completely dismissing it. Trusting climate scientists is a defining factor in the polarization that occurs in the population, especially in those that dismiss climate change, assuming that the scientists are attempting to manipulate us into believing a false truth. Climate change is also a complex phenomenon having implications for many aspects of everyday life. The broad spectrum of meaning climate change has for the population differs depending on personal and political values held by individuals, and the scientific jargon often used when presenting the impact climate change is having can be confusing and misinterpreted.
Although relevant, this belief polarization theory has limitations in addressing how these behaviours and attitudes arise. In particular, it fails to consider the variable factors that influences one's understandings and attitudes towards an individual piece of evidence. Social psychology explores these contradicting responses by examining how a message is expressed through different modes of persuasion. People's attitudes are influenced and persuaded by three main factors: the source, content, and target of a message. When applicable, credible, well-known and attractive sources are more likely to be deemed appealing and noteworthy or change attitudes. In regards to content, fear-evoking evidence tends to produce fear-reducing courses of action, particularly through the uses of statistics related to the audience's social or cultural group. Finally, the message must be presented in a way which considers the audience's age, education, and feelings towards the topic. Combined, these three factors contribute as to how evidence about climate change existence is interpreted, which explains why there may not be a consensus between two parties. Ultimately, belief polarization underemphasizes the role of how a message is presented and why this will influence the dichotomous response.
When addressing climate change, the contribution of psychology has focused less on the psychological and social impacts on the global population, and more so emphasized on the individual and interpersonal behavioral processes experienced in response to evidence regarding climate change. Applications of cognitive and social psychology contribute in their understanding of how information influences individual beliefs and attitudes towards climate change and global warming. This increased knowledge positively assists in addressing climate change as an issue, as when we understand how this information influences personal beliefs, we can recognize and predict behavior in response. With new research providing today's society with more conclusive evidence, the way this information is presented to the public and its effect on the individual highlights psychology's contribution to this global phenomenon. Essentially, by understanding how the presentation of information on climate change affects perception and interpretation by the general public, psychology can contribute to help prevent issues related to variance in responses to the same data and create a better consensus amongst the individuals.